Ironically, I should mention, since he took kind of a cheap shot at the county board, both Dean Johansson and I ended up on the county board, and we've both been the chairman of the Polk County Board of Supervisors for brief periods of time. And we didn't close any schools.
Not that some didn't want to be, well, they wanted to close a museum, I remember
Oh,
that.
yeah.
So Russ,
Not me, but
Russ was in on that deal. Well, I'm Dean Johansson. I'm originally from West Denmark. And so, I guess if any of my teachers in high school knew that I was going to become a teacher, they would go, what, that good time Charlie's going to be a teacher? And I never figured on going to college at all. And, so anyway, I went down to River Falls, started out in the spring of '65, and then I came home. I guess I got a job working in a sawmill out in Frederick, Carol Peterson's sawmill. I think I came home, living at home, and we're cleaning calf pens on the farm with Dad. And he says, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I'm going to head back to River Falls, and I think I'm going to major in ag. Well, he says, you know, there's this normal school, Polk County Teachers College up in Frederick. And I'm going, I never heard of such a thing. So I thought, well, I got to the corner of intersection of 35 and N, and it was either make a left to try that out or go right down to River Falls. Make a left, right down to River Falls. So I thought, I'll go up to Frederick and see. So I walked in to that, I guess it's the third floor, I guess. Walked up the steps, and there sat old Leo Burdette in his office.
Oh, yeah, he was up there too?
Yeah. So, and I recognized him right away. How could you not, you know? And I said, well, I'm interested in enrolling here. And he said, yeah. I said, what kind of credentials? Oh, first thing is, what's the tuition? $50 a semester in 1965.
Yes.
Well, that got my attention. And then, so I could live at home, you know, clean calf pens for my... Then he said, I said, well, what kind of credentials do you need? Oh, don't worry about that. He said, there's a class going on right now. You get in that class and we'll talk about this later. So, you know, he set the hook on me, got me down. That's where Jerry was sitting. I think you were already there. Yep. But then, so then I got a job teaching in Frederick in the lower level, first level, 7th and 8th grade social studies. Great job, I really liked it. But at that time, it was collective begging, and my salary was $4,400 a year, which is pretty good for two-year people back then. And Frederick paid pretty well, but the powers that be said in the collective begging, NEA said, or WEA said, no, we're not going to ask for a raise for two-year people, just the degreed people. So I thought, oh, you know, I'm going to go to summer school like my aunts and uncles did for the rest of my life to get my degree, because that's what you needed to do. So I thought, I'll just resign, and I went back to River Falls and got my degree in elementary teaching, and ended up teaching a number of years, a couple of years in California, whatever. So yeah, that's my little story.
I have a Dean Johansson story.
Uh-oh.
I was in Frederick, and I don't know all the particulars, but his name was out there. And doing what, I don't know if you were a student or if you were indeed downstairs, whatever, but some people who knew you went to Europe. I don't know if it was Norway or wherever.
Probably
they were.
Denmark.
Okay. And they got to talking to these people, and they said where they were from, and the guy said, oh, do you know Dean Johansson? That's all I know of the story.
Okay.
His name is out there.
At least it's not too negative.
I wish I knew the whole thing.
I know a lot of stories about Dean Johansson. I spent 2 years at Polk County.
So do you want to go next?
Me next?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Hopefully your memory is bad.
It is bad. Yeah. My name is Jerry Prokup, and I went there 2 years, graduated from there, and I did not go into teaching. I looked at a couple jobs. I was currently working a summer job at Control Data Corporation in the city, a large corporation. The computer industry was just expanding and blowing up. And the person I was working for, my manager, said, Jerry, are you going to go now teach, or are you going to go back to school? And I said, yeah, I'm probably gonna look at a 2-year job. He says, what if we made you an offer? We'd love to have you here full-time and stuff. I said, well, what would you offer me? What's the benefits and stuff? And I went, oh, man, it was about twice as much. So I wished I would have went into teaching. I would have enjoyed it, but I didn't. So that's my story. I'm gonna put in a little plug for tomorrow. I'm playing 2 shows over here at the stage. I play with a ukulele group, Good Neighbor Ukuleles. We're putting a show on at 3 o'clock for the kids. A lot of neat stuff we're doing for the kids, and then 5 o'clock it'll be adults. And if you want to see about 35 people playing ukulele, all different sizes, banjo-leles, and some stuff I'm going to play accordion with. There's kind of a novelty song I'm going to do with the ukulele group. If you're here tomorrow, swing on over there, especially for the 5 o'clock show.
So because he didn't advertise it, back in when I was in high school, there was a garage band called the Tremodons, and he was what, the lead, everything?
Yeah, I sang, yeah.
Yeah.
We played from about 1960 to 67. And if you look at the Facebook Polk County again, there's a little article in there about it that says Polk County's first garage band, the Tremodons, and it lists our names and stuff, so.
Yeah, famous.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Now,
Well,
I'm
at
still
the-
playing. I
at
play
the time,
guitar,
it was,
accordion,
yeah.
and ukulele with this
Yeah.
group, so.
And you play that yourself?
Yeah, and I play by myself too. I play at church and different things. So, yeah.
So should we move back to the back here again?
Oh, boy. Sure. Okay. Members of the class that closed. All 3 of us, yeah. I'm Jana Pickard Erickson. I graduated from Amory, didn't know what I wanted to do, except I wanted to teach. But I had no money. So I heard about the normal school too, about for $50 I can make this. It was the best thing I ever did in my life. 3rd floor though. I'm sure glad it was back then. And that. So we graduated, taught a year Head Start with this young lady here. When I was at college, I was fortunate to do some student teaching under this lady's mom, Muriel Peterson. Frederick was wonderful. And yes, the Frederick kids were the guinea pigs.
Yeah.
Because you know what I thought was the best thing about our schooling, and I don't know if you agree with me or not, but the way we ran it when we were there, we learned things, but then we were down in the classroom. We were immediately in the classroom, and there were kids that found out that that wasn't what they wanted to do, and they weren't there too long. But you got to explore things right away, and with different grade levels, so I thought that was the best thing. I remember I think it was our 2-week long-term teaching experience. I got assigned to East Luck in the upper grades. I don't know, they must have thought that my voice was good for them. Maybe coming from a family of a lot of kids, I had it. Great experience until I found out that East Luck played Oak Hills in a softball game. And apparently this was a big deal. If a ball comes at me, I close my eyes to do this. So needless to say, the East Luck 4th through 6th grade kids didn't get good coaching. Well, lo and behold, Oak Hills comes. Well, 2 of our fellow classmates were over there, Barry and Roger. And before we knew it, here Barry was coaching my class, my kids. And a year and a half later, we actually got married. And so we had a great time. I did a lot of summer school teaching, raised my family. Now, here we go again. Worked as an aide at Unity for many years and worked under this young lady. And, we had a great time. We had a great time. I was very fortunate. Everyone that I worked as an aide at Unity, grew up, I worked with early childhood and I worked at the library. Even though I only had the 2-year, everyone treated me as a teacher. And it was wonderful. And I love this. She retired A year later, I took over her spot. and then I helped Bill Oliva start the alternative diploma program at Unity. And that was interesting because we could use things I really felt that was more practical, and I related to it because I went to a school that was practical. So Polk County Normal was great. I did eventually graduate from Superior, and then I got my master's in education from Pennsylvania, and retired from Unity in 2015, and now I'm a full-time caregiver.
Wow, Deanna.
I did, I got my master's.
Wow.
So before we move on
Oh,
here,
gosh, she was recording.
Well, before you guys came here, Carol Anderson Lair stopped in, and she said she couldn't stay, but she was, I think she might be in her mid-80s, and she had gone there for 2 years and taught. She brought in her diploma, her some of her grades. She was at St. Croix when it was here, and she was also in the elementary, in the class that was captive in the St. Croix Falls School, and she had her report cards from her days when she was as the guinea pig school, you know, because I think they had a full, like a school class or something in St. Croix, right? Anyway, so she was in that, plus she then went on and did the teacher's thing, and she said, I taught a few years, then I popped out some babies, and then I taught some more. So I'll pass that on for those of you who might remember her. Okay, we got the next one. Yes?
All right. My name is Shirley Wilson Miller. I grew up on a farm south of Balsam Lake, and I can't remember how many times my dad said, there goes a teacher's car. Oh, there goes that house a teacher lives in. If you become a teacher, you could have that kind of car. You could live in that house. And every time we would go down to St. Croix Falls to the clinic, he'd say, see that school? You could go there and become a teacher. So when I graduated, I went to Frederick, to the Teachers College, because he wasn't going to pay for River Falls or Superior. So I went there for 2 years, graduated in '71, and I worked with Dee for Head Start for a year, and then we went on to Superior to finish our degree. And it took me 10 years, I'm sorry, because
1950, or no, 50 years for me? No.
Anyway, it took me 10 years to graduate because I would work and then go back to school, and then go out and work for a while, and then go back to school. So it took me a while. And I did graduate in '79 and with a minor in library science with a double major of education and social work. And my husband worked for the Superior School District, and we went from Superior to Ashland, River Falls, and finally to the University of Minnesota Morris, where he got a job, and I got a job at the University Library, and I was there for 26 years, and retired in 2016, and now I'm a lady of leisure.
Okay, my name is Linda Peterson Munson, and I grew up in Frederick too with Bill. Bill was a good friend of my brother's, and I went to that school that was the Teachers College from 1st grade until 8th grade, except for 4th, they moved us to the new one and then back for 5th. And then I went to the Teachers College, so I spent a lot of time in that building. My mother also went to the Teachers College when it was at St. Croix Falls. It was fun to see her name and my 2 aunts that graduated in the 40s. And Mom taught in many of the country schools, a lot of them around Grantsburg, and some in Frederick, and she also taught at East Luck actually for a while. So, and then went into Frederick, into the town school. So we, like Bill, we grew up with, there are Teachers College kids up there, and yeah, we were guinea pigs and whatever. But I agree with Deanna too, that we learned a lot of practical, and we found, I have a friend of mine who went to Superior all 4 years, and she got to her senior year. Now the colleges are getting people out earlier, which is smart. But at that time, they really weren't very much. You got to your senior year, you student taught, and she had gone all 4 years, and she thought, I don't want to do this. This So she worked at a bank the rest of her life, which is fine, but it's a shame she spent all that time. But so I graduated in '71. The three of us were friends in that class, and later we were roommates at Superior. And I got my degree in Superior, and then later I got my master's in Superior, and I taught in Superior for my teaching career. And my daughter is also a teacher, so she's in the third generation. She still teaches in Superior now. So yeah, lots of family connections, and it was fun to see all of these, nice to see people.
So who wants to go? You want to try it next?
I can try it. I don't have near the story. I had my mom, I found her name in here, and that's kind of special. I think I mentioned that before. She was just thrilled to pieces. And she went to St. Croix. And then I began my life after high school, and then included going to Stout. And then I got married, quit Stout, had the baby, and I couldn't commute 90 miles one way. Mom said, well, why don't you go to County College? It's in Frederick. Well, that was drivable. Well, that was a lifesaver, and probably way ahead of what I had ever expected my career in teaching to be. Girls just covered it all. And from there, then I taught in Unity, and then I got my degree from River Falls, and then I got a library science job, library at Unity. And that was, I think, a great kick from who was the girl that did library in Schneider. Yeah. She just,
Down up here.
it was just there, yeah, Joanne Schneider. I was just thrilled with library cards.
I'll go around.
And card catalogs and all that good stuff. And so that was where I ended up.
So you didn't give us your name for the
Pat
movie?
Anderson, and I graduated in, I have to look because I wasn't sure, '68 from Polk County Fair. And yes, I had Dr. Burdett. And I had a very full teaching load. You know, we were busy, as you know. And it was beach time. I don't know if it was Modern Woodman or whatever else, the prizes and everything that went with it. And I went to him and I said, you know, I don't have time for this. I don't have time. Me, didn't have time to give a speech or anything. And he just, you know how he would go through it. Well, with this grin, you know, we will all be doing that. Yes. So I did my speech, and on many others, because we had to, and it was well worth it, very well worth it. I have a speech minor, I think we all do, after we graduate. Yeah, so I think that's about it.
You know, you mentioned the speech giving. There's two things I'm thinking. Why I got the idea for doing this is I've been working at the, with digitizing some old tapes and things from the county museum. And one of the big reels of tapes is, I think, from the mid-'60s, and it's the Polk County Teachers College students getting up, each telling a little story. And I sort of looked up, and there was a couple guys from Unity that told one about his car or something, and I got that digitized, but it got me thinking, and then it also brought to mind that they were practicing and recording their own so they could get an idea what it sounded back. And my older brother, when he went there, he had to do these speeches. He could never write a speech that would last long enough for the requirement. So and he would practice it on me, and so he would read it, and I'd say, okay, you're a whole minute short on your 5 minutes or something. So then he would read it again with a long pause after each sentence, because he wouldn't write anymore. And so then when he gave his speech at the school, his teacher, I don't know who it was, said, you know, you speak just like John Kennedy. He has these long pauses too, and you said that's pretty effective. So, okay, so we haven't, yeah, we'll work our way across. So would you like to go next?
All right. I'm trying to think what I can remember from Polk County, but I have a graduated in.
So you got to start with your name and your class.
David Stephenson, originally from Luck, West Denmark area. Needed to be. Let's see. I did not start out in Polk County Teachers College. I started out in Superior as a liberal arts major, with speech as my major, because I was thinking of going into radio announcing. And they had a little radio station up in Superior, the other state universities did. So I went up there, you know.
My husband worked there.
Okay.
In college, yeah.
But through the first semester, then they dropped the program. Got rid of the little studio, and it really ticked me off. So I started looking around and found Brown's Radio Institute in Minneapolis, which trained people to be radio announcers and so on and so forth. I went there, I got my third class radio license and so on and so forth, and that was $22 and something a week, where I paid local people. For me, I think it was $25 a semester, if I recall. Or maybe it was 50. 50. But anyway, about halfway through the program, they noticed in the tape recordings book of our practicing and speaking and stuff that I enunciated my S's and U's, which means it would blow up on the microphones and go pop, pop, pop. So they said, we're going to put you on leave for a time being until you go and get this taken care of. As a speech therapist, well, that really made me mad. And so it's halfway through, so then I eventually started looking around and never thought of being a teacher, but I'm just a few miles from Frederick. So I enrolled in Polk County Teachers College. And I graduated there in January at the end of the semester of '67. I only had to spend a year and a half there because I had credits from Superior from the time I was up there. And what's interesting about that is that I have a former student who has become a really good friend of mine. And he went to St. Olaf and graduated second in his class with a 3.96 average in a chemistry major. Pretty bright kid. And so he's talking to me and he said, well, Mr. Stephenson, he says, I graduated second in my class out of 700. And I said, well, you don't have anything on me. I graduated second in my class also. How many in your class? He said, and I said, well, 2. It was only high. And a gentleman by the name of Pastor Roberts, who graduated in the middle of the year. Anyway, I, of course, had Leo Burdett, Dr. Burdett, Louise Peterson with a big shiny tooth, and, you know, a great lady. And my first master teacher that I worked with was Helen Weindrel.
Oh.
And she is, I visited her not so long ago. She's down in Osceola right now. Mine shark is attacked. And in her 90s, I think. But anyway, when it comes to graduation,
What was the last name?
Weindrel, Helen Weindrel.
Weindrel.
Yeah. Bob Weindrel was her husband.
Mrs. Weinzer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Mrs. Weindrel.
Helen, no, not Helen. There was also Marie.
I just went to Leo Burdett and I said, you know, I'm going to be student teaching here pretty soon. I'd like to go down to Osceola. And I said, and he said, well, we've never sent anybody that far away. Usually it's, you know, Luck, Frederick, Grantsburg, Webster, and but he says we can look into it. And my reason for going to Osceola was, well, there's a couple of them, but the major one was that I thought close to the cities, it's going to grow. It's always going to be, you know, a growing school, which turned out to be true. He sent me down there, and I eventually got a job down there in the fall of '67, and I was 6th grade for 36 years. Yeah. Yeah, you betcha. And it was a very good experience. A lot of traveling time, though, to pick up extra credits and get your degrees. Got my degree finally in Superior. And I got my other degree, my master's postgraduate. No, my graduate degree down in River Falls. But one of the things that was interesting about my teaching career was I taught GED for several years through Richmond. And that was another whole experience too, a very good one. Several graduates there. So that's about it. I mean, it was a great time, like you said. What was great about it, 1 month after I was in the school, I was in the classroom. And I was telling them. And that was good. That was so lots of fun. Lots of fun over the lunch table at the restaurant that was next to the school.
Oh, yeah.
Student union, we call it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would like to tell people that our school song was the Beer Barrel Polka. And I don't think I was too far from it. You remember that maybe? I don't know. But I graduated in '67, so a long time.
So we're gonna take, okay, so where, are we, you're next, all right?
Hi, I am Charlotte Howell. I got somebody that I went to school with. Where is she? There she is, Selma. My first year was at Superior, and I was going to be a teacher. That was my whole thing. But I'm a transplant from Rusk County up here. You know, I graduated from Tony High School. I am a Tony Tornado. I will never ever be a Flambeau Falcon because they switched because of consolidation. Anyway, so I had 1 year at Superior, and Dwayne and I were dating, and we decided to get married in '59. So I traveled with Dwayne on the Sioux line. He was a telegraph operator, and would go from depot to depot. We were at luck. We were working for somebody who had a kidney issue. And I met a gal through church by the name of Bernice Ott. And she was a Shire. And that family became my family whenever Dwayne was gone. And she said, you know, you could go back to school. And I said, yeah. We are a one-car family. I'm living in an 8 by 28-foot mobile home up at that Frederick Mobile Home Court at the south end of town. And she said, why don't you look into it? So I did. My goodness, tuition $50 a lesson. That's a lot better than going to Superior. And I could walk. So I went there for my first year. The second year, I was pregnant with Brian, who was born in December of '64. This year, he's going to be 6 years old. You know, my Brian. And then I had Bryce. And I finished school. He was with me when I graduated from Polk County as a little baby crying as I'm singing the song. It's, you know, I'm thinking of things that I haven't thought about for years. Anyway, we moved from Frederick to St. Croix. And the reason for that was because of good medical care. And I stayed home taking care of kids. But in the meantime, because I was a 2-year county graduate, I started substitute teaching. And I subbed in St. Croix Falls and over in Taylor's Falls. And then Dwayne was working at Dresser afternoons or at night. And then he got a job driving school bus for the district for St. Croix Falls. And guess what? He gave me the check. And with that check, I went to River Falls. I was able to get my degree within a year. Mrs. Packard took care of my kids. The kids were out of diapers. Anybody remember Ida Packard? Hi. Yeah, she took care of my kids. And they were out of diapers, and the daycare was unbelievable. So, came back. I stayed home until my kids were both in school. And I taught at Grantsburg for 20 years. I taught American history and civics. I taught with the Jorgensens. Clayton was at the elementary, but I was with Tim Tyman, who, he graduated from Superior. But anyway, so, in 91, went something like that, I thought I never wanted to see another middle school kid as long as I lived. I had it. Well, that fall I started subbing. St. Croix, Unity, and Osceola. I'm still at Osceola. And last year, if I had 7 days off, I was lucky. But by the way, they do not know me as Mrs. Schwartzstraub.
No, Grandma.
Grandma Shutter. I come in there in the daytime, Grandma Shutter, where are you? 7th grade math. 6th graders go, oh, we want you now. The 8th graders go, what? We want you. Yeah, well, can't have me. Now, it'll be a new transition because we have 5th graders coming in. And I'm looking forward to it. You know, I love the kids. My goodness. I don't know what to say. You know, people say these kids are horrible. They're not any more horrible than the kids we went to school with. They are the same. The same thing.
You're supposed to say, they're not any more horrible than we were. You said the kids we went to school with. You should have said, than we were.
That's true. But no, the needs might be a little bit different. Not any more than it was back then, because in 1946, I lost my mom at the age of 6 in childbirth. So I was raised with a stepmom and good grandparents. How many of these kids have grandparents living with them? The same thing. You know, our life might be different because we have social media, but we used to have social media when I was a kid growing up. Get off the bus, have to change clothes, go milk cows, but by goodness, I was on that phone calling my girlfriend to find out what she was going to wear, what she, you know, that was our social media. But maybe more family time together. Okay. That's me. I'm still in a classroom. I'm looking forward to it. That's your turn.
So Margie, would you like to go next?
Well, I have a short story.
All right.
In my second year, just before we graduated, my future husband came home from the service and Japan, and I got married. And we proceeded to have 2 children right away. Then they needed a teacher at the Alabama school, so I taught there 2 years. Now I have my 3rd child. Now it's time for me to stay home and take care of them. But I always found something else to do.
So Margie actually had 2 careers in school, because at the Oak Hill School, having been a teacher once upon a time, you took another job, didn't you?
Yep, and I was a cook there.
Yeah.
Where's Alabama? Where's that?
It's
Up near the Polk Burnett County line, north of, sort of up by, between Frederick and south of, west of, yeah. Yeah, it's northern Polk County, way up there in Lake Town and those areas. We had a reunion last year. We have this new book out, I better advertise, all about Atlas. Now that's the northern part, and Oak Hill and Alabama School are near that little town. And so we had a nice reunion last year. A lot of people out that were former students from those schools. We've been working, our History Society, I'll put this plug in, our History Society has been working on the small towns that were in our Sterling, Eureka, and Lake Town area. So like we have one there, we have one on Cushing, we have one on Alabama, we've got a couple on Trade Lake, one on Wolf Creek, and we're working on Eureka next. So we'll soon have the county or the area covered.
You know one thing I forgot to mention when I was going to do that. I was doing my student teaching out at Indian Creek. And there was a young child that came down with rubella. And the first thing I did was contact the doctor. And I hadn't told Dwayne that I was pregnant. And I had to get a shot for it, you know, so I wouldn't lose the baby or anything. And he said, you better tell him about this because this is $300.
So, you know, talking about those childhood diseases, when I went through, the polio vaccine was just coming out and that, but when I was in, let's say, well, the girl a year ahead of me was 10 years old when she got meningitis, okay? And she died over Christmas vacation. My dad was on the school board, and the county health agent said, you got to burn any books you might have touched or seen, and they said, well, you know, we don't know what those are, and we can't really be burning books in a school. Isn't there some alternative? And they said, well, you could put them in the oven at 170 for an hour or two. So my dad and my mom cooked the books for anything that might have been she had touched. So we had all those books sterile, ready back for use. So.
That was a good idea. I mean,
Yeah, well, it
were
was
okay
worked, yeah. And then I learned where cooking the books comes from.
Wouldn't get you in trouble.
Okay, would you like to go next?
Sure. Well, I not only got stories about Polk County Teachers College, but I was the last teacher to teach in this school.
Oh.
When it had to be, you know.
So give us your name
with
too.
Osceola. Oh, I was Ann Jeans Stefan now. So this is, and well, it was funny because they hired me. We didn't graduate until the spring, but they hired me at Christmas time because I only lived a mile from the church, and all the people that were on the school board knew me all my life, and they liked me, and so I already signed a contract before I even graduated. And and the funny part of it was, a lot of people say to me, you should have went on What's My Line, because I had 8 kids in the school, 1 in each grade. This is what it looked like. It was the best. And this school then was moved to the Polk County Fairgrounds for the museum, but it was built in 1858, and it served the people till 1957. That's when they had that.
About 100 years, yep.
Yep.
Where'd you sit?
Was the teacher's desk?
At the teacher's desk.
Oh, you were, okay.
Yeah, I was the teacher.
Oh,
Yeah.
you also went over.
And then, after, whatever, the teacher's name was, the one that come around and
Yeah.
made sure, you know.
Starry.
Starry?
Starry.
Oh, Starry. That's been a long time ago. And she said, well, you must have graduated from Polk County Normal, because that's when we had the school. So we, you know, already were teaching a class. So when we started teaching, we were young, didn't know really what we were doing. And she said, you're too good of a teacher to be here. So then I went to St. Croix County, and I ended up at St. Croix Central in Hammond. That was the last place that I taught. But it was, country school was the best place there was. I mean, I only lived a mile from home. So if somebody had a birthday, one of the kids had a birthday, she'd bring the cake over, you know, at recess time, and then we'd have a birthday party for the kids, you know, and you don't have things like that anymore, where you're in contact with the parents and people that you had in school. But I see a lot of them yet where the kids that I had in the younger grades, their parents now are dying, some of them, and I go to the funerals and I still see a lot of the kids, and they're happy to see me and I'm happy to see them. Mm-hmm. So it's a great thing. And for, must be 20 years, I always belonged to Extension Homemakers, and they always have school in Madison every year. Women from Wisconsin, you know, we get to go down there. And I did that for 25 years, I think. And after we graduated, there was a bunch of us from Osceola that all graduated from, and then we went to River Falls. And back then, River Falls would come at night and have classes at the schools, and we'd go to those. And that's how we furthered our education.
They did that from Superior too.
Yeah.
I'm sure they did.
You know that having birthday parties, I went to rural school at Wolf Creek. It was right on the edge of the Barrens up along the river up north here. And when a kid had a birthday there, they'd bring $1, then we'd all go walk over, cross the creek to the bar, and then we'd have a treat at the bar, yeah. Wolf Creek bar. That was a little different type of kids up there. So have we gotten back here yet?
You want me to go?
Yeah, sure.
Hi, Dennis. Good to see you. Dennis and I are cousins.
Oh, and you both got the same name.
I'm Adelaide Bishop Peterson, and I graduated in 1959. It was a time of fun, very good, and I enjoyed every single minute of it. I knew I was going to be a teacher by the time I could toddle around the floor. The dogs are my students, the cats are my students, everything. And it went on, and Dad knew the superintendent at Polk County, and what a wonderful place it was. Well, that's where I was going to go. I went to school up on the hill in St. Croix Falls, and I just walked down the hill, flavored, and I'd go to school. I knew that. That was in my head. And I did that, and I met my future sister-in-law there. She was my best friend in school. So happy memories, really happy memories. We had such a good time. And after I graduated, St. Croix Falls hired me, and I taught in my home school, and that was great. When I married, we moved across the state line into Minnesota, and we lived in St. Paul. I did not drive, and I tried to get a teaching job in an area where I could get to it transportation-wise, and it wasn't successful. Minnesota that year, 1961, passed a law. You had to have your BA degree to get a teaching position in there. If I wanted to drive out into the state, I could get a job, but I didn't drive. So I ended up having daycare. I did daycare for 8 years. And I took care of the kids, nothing else. I took care of the kids during the day. And when that ended, I went to Minnesota Historical Society. That was wonderful. Oh my goodness. I was a tour guide at a historic site in St. Paul. And I loved the history, loved taking groups through, telling them all about what I knew for all this. And then my site manager started giving me the school kids because I knew how to handle them. I knew how to talk to them. Well, I learned that at Polk County. That was all part of the training. And then she gave me a chance to write a couple programs for the kids. So when they came through, we had the displays, and the talk would be about what the displays show in school clothes, school lunches, school games, and that sort of thing. And that was fun to be able to do that. There was an actor in St. Paul at the Chimera Theater. He wanted to get a kids' TV show on that would include all kinds of entertainment, not just cartoons. And so he came and asked if I would help him out by demonstrating in the kitchen cooking utensils, measurements, how to start a fire in an iron stove, how to iron with fat irons, how to do ruffles and all that. And we did that, and he chopped it all out. So he had 4 weeks worth of film for his kids show, and that was a great time. And using what I learned at Polk County, I also was asked to do a tour for the blind through the historic site. And I received letters afterwards. They would say, I could just feel the velvet on the wallpaper. I could feel the frosted glass on the door as you were talking. But all that was from Polk County because it taught us how to focus on the kids and what they could do, what they could feel, what they could see, what they could smell, what they could taste. And that was just, everything associated with that was just fun. Just had a good time. I'd do it again in an hour.
So now, before we move on, how many of you still have your lifetime Wisconsin teacher's license? Ooh, a few of you. Yeah, well, it turns out that in good old days, if you taught a few years successfully, you could get a lifetime license. And so I thought, I quit teaching in '80, then I retired in 2005, and I thought, you know, I had forgotten how bad teaching was. And so I thought, well, you know, I could do substitute teaching here, maybe just at St. Croix Falls. So I checked with the Department of Education. They said, sure, your license is good, but if you're going to substitute teach and you haven't taught for that long, we really need to investigate you to see how many kids you might have molested or anything like that. And then you should apply for a substitute teacher's license. And so I did, and I substitute taught a couple years. And it was really, substitute teaching is wonderful because usually somebody has something prepared for you. You kind of sweep in there, hand out the worksheet or the assignment, and you just sort of, the general rule was if you're an excellent substitute teacher, if no property was damaged in the classroom while you were there, no children were injured while in the classroom you were there, and no one got pregnant, you were a good substitute teacher. Well, anyway, so when I applied for that substitute teacher license, it was only good for 5 years, and I lost all of my lifetime licenses. You had to turn those in, so I can't go back and teach. Back in the corner here, do any of you remember the Wisconsin School of the Air?
Oh, yeah.
We got an old radio back here. One year at Wolf Creek, I don't know if you all were elementary school teachers, sort of had to teach music, and they were expected maybe to play the piano a little at least, and teach music. Well, one year we didn't have a music the teacher didn't know music, and it was a one-room school by then, and so the school board bought a FM radio, dialed it into School of the Air, and so we had like Wednesdays for 20 minutes or something, music on the air. It was really quite exciting for a kid. You listen to something and you get out your spoon and bang on the table or something like that. Okay, so we'll move on here to Donis. Would you like to try next?
Well, my name is Donis Lindahl used to be Nagel, and I graduated from Polk in '56. And was hired at the Little Alabama school that they talk about over there. And I taught the 4 grades there for 1 year. And then I had heard kind of by the grapevine that the first grade room was open in Cushing. And of course that was kind of what I wanted in the first place. So I went down to Nell Sorensen. He was the superintendent in St. Croix. And they always said he was such a tough guy, but I thought, well, I'll try to talk to him anyway. So I went down and after school one night and said that I'd like to apply for that first grade job in Cushing. And he said, what makes you think you'd be a good teacher? And right then I didn't know. So I suppose I must have told him what I thought I could do. And so he said, well, you're hired. So then I went back and met with the school board and got hired. And I taught there for a couple of years and got married, went to the city, came back, got my old job back. And I taught there for 41 years, first grade.
Yeah, when our small schools closed out here up around Cushing, then they had built, St. Croix District had built the the Cushing School, which had, I forget, 6 rooms and 8 grades, something like that. So they kind of, for instance, in I think it was maybe my 7th grade class, they grouped us. There was the bluebirds, the robins, and then I was in the crows. Right, okay. But it was interesting. It's like what this other fellow here was saying. I had 2 kids in my grade at Wolf Creek, and I went from second best to 22nd best in 1 year. Okay, so should we go back here?
I was Marcella Olson from Frederick and now Schmidt. And we lived on a farm about 5 miles west of Frederick. At that time, Polk County was in St. Croix, so I did the first year in St. Croix. And then they moved to Frederick, which made it much easier for me. I could live at home and help at home. And then a girlfriend also graduated from Polk County College by the name of Marilee Latch, and the 2 of us hopped a train and went out to Canyon Ferry, Montana. They were looking for teachers too, and it was a government school, and we taught there for 1 year and came back and we had a little money in our pockets, so we went up to Superior and got our 2-year, finished up our 2-year up there. And then Wayne Gustafson from Osceola came up there looking for teachers, and he hired us both. And I had the 1 year in Montana as my experience. And then I taught in Osceola for 10 years and took a break to get married and have 2 children until they started school. Then I went back, so I ended up with 37 years in Osceola and retired in 2011. And I couldn't have gone on to college without Polk County, so it was a wonderful experience.
So, are you a Polk?
My name is Dave Slaughter from Clear Lake, and I hated high school with a passion, so when I got out, I had no idea what I was going to do. And my sister said, well, why don't you come up here to Polk County? She was Elaine Samden, graduated in 1960. She taught 38 years in Baldwin. And I said, oh boy, me a teacher? And so I spent 2 years there, and I really had a good time. My one problem was that I looked younger than the 8th graders. So when I went in, and that 8th grade was sort of a rowdy group too. So when I went in there, I had my shirt and coat and tie on, and I looked tough, and I had sort of a commanding voice, so I had no trouble with discipline at all. So whenever that one of the teachers down below had to take a half a day off, then they had me come in to substitute. I graduated in 63. And as I was waiting for my resumes to come back, the Army thought that I needed to come and join them. So instead I joined the Air Force and been there for almost 4 years. Spent the 2 years in the Philippines, Southeast Asia. When I came back, I went to River Falls for a year in the summer, thinking I was going to go back into elementary, and something told me, no, I don't think I want to teach elementary. And so I had a girlfriend that was sort of pushing the button about getting married. So 15 years later, kids were pretty well grown up by that time. I went, at that time, there was some talk about that you could substitute teach on a regular bachelor's degree, because I had gone back to Stout and got my bachelor's in psychology and counseling, and I thought, well, goodness, a bachelor's degree in counseling, you can go any place. Well, not really. I ended up in a group home someplace for a year. And so anyway, I decided that I would have to go back to school, but in the meantime, there was substitute teaching done at the Menominee High School, where I went to Scout. And so I did some teaching there and then around, and for a while I was working on my bachelor's, graduated then. And so I got a job, sort of a full-time job at Menominee High School as a support staff in what was called ALEC, a supportive attendance center, where the naughty boys and girls came down to sit with me so I could straighten them out so they wouldn't come back. And so anyway, I was there, and so they hired me after 90 days. And I thought, well, I'm gonna really should go back and get my master's. So in the summers, I got my master's and so on. Well, during that time, they promoted me to dean of students of the high school. And we had 1,200 kids. And I thought, oh wow, 1,200. But I have to say, the Menominee High School was some of the best kids that I had ever been with. And retired in 2010, and I have to say I really enjoy sleeping in the morning and enjoyed my time off. But Polk County will always be part of my life and my memory, and I still talk with some of my friends that lived in Frederick, and I remember the Petersons at the jewelry store, and of course the cafe. And I lived in the hotel for a couple of months before I had lived at Esther Peterson's place. I don't remember that, Esther Peterson. And so Frederick has got a warm spot in my heart also. But it was a time that I'll never forget.
So the Peterson jewelry place, the watch shop, is now a tattoo parlor.
Oh.
Oh, Floyd, he would roll over in the grave.
I'm sure you would.
So before we take the last couple here, I heard from Shirley Fleming Ganter, who was from the Trade Lake area, who went there. She didn't make it, but she said that she went to it in St. Croix, I think maybe about when it was closing there, and she thought it was nice because she could stay at a house nearby, at a room there, help out at the house somewhat for room and board, and then walk over to the school, and so it wasn't very costly. Then I had a letter yesterday from Sheila Staples, who was a graduate, who said she couldn't make it, but she also praised her education at up at Frederick and thought it was really a nice school too. So, okay, so we'll move on here. So would you like to introduce yourself and tell us about your school experience?
I'm Selma Christensen, Selma Peterson Christensen. I'm a graduate of Polk County Normal, St. Croix Falls, 1956, as are 3 other gals here today. It was a great experience. I remember Nils Erickson coming to our high school and talking to us about the normal school, and feeling at that time that I didn't know what I was going to do. I thought I'd be a secretary or something that wouldn't take too much education, but I didn't feel like I had the experience for it. And when he came, that just opened the door. That was what I really wanted to do. So a group of us girls got together. We went to the normal school and found out places where you could stay in St. Croix Falls. And we visited a couple different places and decided on one. There were 6 of us girls living in one house, 4 in one bedroom and 2 in the other bedroom. And we had a great time. We we planned our meals out for the week and then figured out who was going to bring what groceries. And that was how we managed to survive. We cooked our own meals and had our meal our noon meal at the school. I will say this, I think that it was one of the most practical places to go to school, not only financially, but educationally as well, because you had so much hands-on experience. I went to 2 years to the normal school, taught for 2 years, and then I had gone to night schools and summer schools and weekend schools to make up practically a year, and then went back to Superior and got my degree. And while at Superior, girls would talk to us about teaching because they knew we had taught. And all we could say was we thought that our school was so practical that you learned to teach practically right away. And that's what made it so much fun. I will forever be grateful to Polk County Normal for such a wonderful start and for a career that I have just loved with my whole heart for all these years. And I want to thank you Russ, for having this reunion, because it's just been delightful to hear all of these stories and from all of these people who have had a similar experience. Thank you.
Yeah. Do we have one more here? Are you a graduate too?
No.
No? Oh, okay.
I'm just an audience.
Oh, okay. So now I'm going to ask you a quiz. Oh, by the way, before we leave, I've got a list that we got to have your names here so I can contact you. I'm trying to do a book this winter on the school, and the important part is your reminiscences. And so if you could put your name on that. The other thing is I had an email from the Intercounty Leader reporter who said, I need a group picture of these folks to put in the paper, and so we need to do that yet before. No, but I got a quiz for you. What is the smallest school district in all of Wisconsin?
South Shore.
No. No. I'll give you a hint. It's on an island.
That's an island.
No?
Fossil Island, I suppose.
No. Washington Island, out on the green. Yeah, I was going to say, because I taught there. I taught, the first year I taught in 73 or 4, it was hard to get a teaching job, and so you had to go where nobody would go. And so I taught a year on Washington Island. You guys all know what non-renewed means in the teaching world? Yeah, well, that happened to me. And then I moved to the second smallest school district in Wisconsin and taught 3 years there. Now, does anybody know where the second smallest school district in Wisconsin is? I'll give you a hint. It's on Highway 8. It's not on this side of the state.
Bruce?
Well, it's much beyond that. You go way over.
Pembine?
Pembine is too far, and that's a big school. I was just before that, a little lumber town called Goodman. And so I went from the smallest school to the next smallest school, and then I ended up at Amory for a couple of years, which was a normal sized school. But I think I'm the only person who taught in the 2 smallest districts in the state. They're still open, of course. Okay, so does anybody have anything they'd like to say or any summary stuff? Yeah.
I would like to say how nice Polk County Normal School was, because we're still after all these years. And I'm glad you have this today, because we were such close friends, that's 4, and we don't hardly get to see each other anymore. So thank goodness you have this today. So we can see it.
One of the things that kind of surprises me is all of the students from the first class to the end are not only in the school book, but that handout I got. And how many people's names I recognize that I didn't realize had go through there. One of my neighbors, Myrtle Hatch Jansen, was a student. Donna Blair she didn't teach. But anyway, there's a lot of names in there who I never realized they were teachers, and they're that people I know or knew. So it's pretty interesting. So if you look through those lists of names, it's kind of fun to see that. They said there was about 1,500 graduates, not quite 1,500 graduates over so a math student, 1905 till 1971 is what, 64 years of, so 1,500 of them. And its last year was one of the biggest classes of 50 people at the school this last year it ran. So yeah, and of course you all know why that is, don't you?
Vietnam.
And it was almost half men in that last year, because that was a deferment for us. Teaching was a deferment. For some reason they thought teachers were important. All right, so if we can gather you for a photograph somewhere, where should we